I want to bring in MSNBC's chief legal correspondent and host of The Beat, Ari Melber. Your top thoughts right now as cross-examination gets underway.
Well, it's a big day, as you and your guests and legal experts have been discussing. And I think if we just pull back and say, OK, what has the prosecution achieved thus far? They are, as mentioned, really rebutting this defense and what some jurors may come to see as a Trump conspiracy theory, that none of this ever happened, that these people didn't interact, that the money was paid just to silence a random person or a person that he only had a glancing interaction with. Let's remember, the burden is on the prosecution, but the theory that the defense has, which I think it's fair to say is more expansive than if they had a different type of client, is that everyone's lying but Donald Trump, and everyone's basically making stuff up, and this is all out to get him and wrong and everything else. The photo on the screen, the testimony today, and a lot of other corroboration cuts against that. And so I think as someone who's looking at this as a story, as I observe this, whether or not they went, the prosecutors, a little too far or more than they needed to in some of the lurid or sordid details is a question we can't really answer today. But they did seem to move the ball in showing the jury, here is a person who is credible. Here is a person who Donald Trump has been responding to and dealing with for many years. And in the details of the story, they're arguing that it checks out rather than it being some wholly made up, weird, random thing that this person is pushing, which is the defense theory. And so I think that's what comes through today. This is a flesh and blood witness, and the jury is going to have to decide whether they think she's basically telling the truth about something that did happen or whether she committed perjury today.
Can I step back for a second, Ari, just big picture, and ask you to put on your legal historian or historian hat? This is Stormy Daniels in a courtroom before a jury. Among the allegations that she has made today, a sexual encounter with a married man. He had only been married for about a year, that she went into great detail about. She talks about being introduced as a porn star to a Playboy Playmate of the Year at another event where the future president was. She talks about and makes an allegation about a parking garage encounter that involved threats. This is the former president of the United States, the presumed nominee for the Republican nomination, sitting 15 feet away from a woman who is making all of these allegations in the midst of a presidential campaign. Can we just stop for a moment and say how extraordinary today is?
Well, when you put it like that, Chris, I think you're right. I think that we have all been numbed in various ways. And when you put it like that, and we take in those facts as presented, some of them, as mentioned, corroborated, we are in this very unusual and historic period. I do think it's fair to observe that people will see this in different ways outside the courtroom. The jury's job is to listen to the evidence, decide who's telling the truth, and whether it amounts to the crime as presented. But yes, he's also a candidate. The judge himself had to refer to that just yesterday with regard to holding him in contempt again. And so there's a reality outside the courtroom, and there are people who are more inclined to the Republican or Trump perspective who will say, how is this any different than what happened with Ken Starr and Monica Lewinsky when there were many complaints and lectures about prosecutorial powers being used to basically go into personal matters. There will be others who view this as one of 4 different cases, the only one that Trump hasn't managed to tangle up in legal delays and knots with various help from people in the government and the judiciary branch, that this is a serious case that only got this far because it was so bad and not because of the incident, which Stormy Daniels testified to today, but because of what are alleged business fraud and campaign crimes after the incident. You don't have to be a lawyer to know the cover-up can be worse than the crime. And so I think in that way, it may be a Rorschach test for some people outside the courtroom, but inside the courtroom, as you described it, it's significant because a lot of this is corroborated and the jury is now seeing why this is the kind of thing that, again, the nexus, the kind of thing that outside the courtroom in a campaign, be it the 16 one under issue or the one today, is not going to do that well, even among independents or conservatives who might give a different Republican a shot. And so that, I think, also is the connective tissue that they have tried to show. The prosecutor saying, here's what she says. This is why it looks bad. You can see why it looks bad. And this is why then candidate Trump worked with other people, they say, then and afterward, to make sure it never got out or he wouldn't have been president in the first place.
So we're looking at the document right now as this cross-examination continues, Ari, and Necklace continues to go after Stormy Daniels for these legal fees that she owes Donald Trump for the litigation that Michael Avenatti had, moved forward on behalf of Stormy Daniels a few years ago. And Necklace is calling it frivolous litigation and just seems to be continuing to go back and forth. In California, it has 10% annual interest, Is this the only direction Susan Necklace can go with Stormy Daniels?
I think it's one of several, but I think that it can try to score points with the jury by saying, you just heard a lot of stuff that sounds bad, but here's other stuff that sounds bad, right? This is kind of a deterioration cross-examination rather than some great single insight. Mr. Avenatti, of course, ended up in prison in connection to both this and other cases. We just had him on MSNBC within the last few weeks, his first prison interview about this case, and he both said he expects Trump to be convicted while also putting out several theories or attacks, and he has not been deemed the most credible witness. He's also a convict, to be clear. But the reason that comes up here is obviously the cross here is trying to point out that maybe Stormy Daniels has other motivations. They got her to talk about a dislike for the defendant. The question is not, of course, whether she dislikes him. She's allowed to. The question is whether she has such dislike or animus that it has somehow corrupted her testimony. And the prosecutors have tried to show very clearly that everything they asked was factual and either it happened or it didn't. But yes, I think the question about Avenatti, about the legal skirmishes thereafter, and about whether or not she's always been truthful, she, like Michael Cohen, certainly has more potential explaining to do, which can be drawn out on cross for the Trump side, than some of these other witnesses where I don't think the Trump lawyers got very far at all.